Hi everyone, we're going to get started. My name is Susanna Bardina, and I want to thank you all for attending our Trainee Entrepreneurship Forum. I'm a co-organizer of this event, along with my colleagues Nicole McKnight and Brett Marianelli, as well as Kate McCamick, who could not be here today. So first of all, we want to say thank you for attending, and we created this really exciting panel and these seminars and in order to kind of showcase different information that has helped us along our discovery process. Some of us here are entrepreneurs and have our own startups, and we hope you enjoy the event. So I'm going to pass this off to Brett.
All right, thank you very much, Susanna. So I wanted to give everyone an understanding of what's going on this afternoon. So we're going to start with a panel with Dr. Hina Chaudry, Associate Professor of Medicine and Cardiology here at Sinai, Dr. Michael Marin, who's the chair of the System Chair of Surgery and Vascular Surgeon, and also Dr. Rahul Patel, who is interventional radiologist and also part of the surgery department. And our moderator will be Dr. Levin, who is co-founder of Caridia Incorporated, which is a medical device incubator. So that will be from now until 2:45. Then we'll have 3 concurrent workshops from 2:45 to 3:30. One will be transforming ideas into technology, and those will be run by Daniel Seltzer and Jeffrey Smith. Then we'll have how to pitch yourself and your idea, and that'll be run by Paul Lawrence. And then finally, we'll have funding beyond the NIH box, and that will be Louise Lammers and Atine Gillens. Then following that at 3:30, we're going to have another lecture back here in Davis Auditorium by Dr. Yahira Fortis Santiago. She's the director of the Science Alliance of the New York Academy of Sciences. And then finally at 4 o'clock, we'll start a networking reception outside. That's open to everyone, but also starting at 4 o'clock, we're going to have a medical student session, another panel here dedicated for medical students with particular interest in innovation and entrepreneurship.
Okay. So we have lots of people to thank for helping us to put this event together. So Susanna and Kate are representing Women in Science. I'm representing the Postdoc Executive Committee, and Brett is representing the medical students. And we've been working alongside a lot of offices here at Mount Sinai to pull it all together. And our sponsors of the networking reception tonight, I want to give a special thanks to. That's the Office of Alumni and Development, the Mount Sinai Alumni Association, the Graduate School of Biomedical Sciences, the Dean's Office, the Office of Special Events, who bought the wine, and of course the Icahn School of Medicine at Mount Sinai. And I just wanted to give a quick shout out to Mount Sinai Innovation Partners, who are here in the room and will be around this afternoon. And they're really helpful and can answer questions to you of anything that you think of if you're thinking about commercializing your technology and want to know how that happens here at Mount Sinai. So if you guys could just raise your hands. There you go. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to turn it over to Howard and get the panel started.
Hi, there's such fancy things here. You have to press the button. It's technology limited sometimes here. First of all, I'd like to thank Nicole, Suzanne, Brett, and the rest of the team. They have done a yeoman's job in putting this all together and pulling it here. So I just want to, first of all, congratulate you on putting this wonderful job. Second of all, we're very lucky to have this panel of physicians who and scientists who are able to give you a unique perspective on what it's like to innovate within sort of the clinical realm. And just as a start, I'd like to get a little bit of a check here. Can we have a number of hands? Medical students. Okay. Graduate students. Postdocs. Other. Oh my goodness, a lot of other. What are the other? High school. There we go. Residents? Prematriculation. Holy cow. Is that, I think it's a disease. That's right.
Write that one down.
Right, prematriculation. Get it on rounds, right? What is he at? Prematriculation. Okay, so say again? FlexMed, I gotcha. Congratulations, that's great, great program. Residents or residents? What division? Gotcha. And then we have, I guess, some attendees. We see Dr. Friedman in the back, who's leading us, another. Excellent. So thank you all for coming today. We'd like to make this interactive. And, you know, instead of us just downloading information to you, we'd like you to react back and ask questions as we move along. But I'd like to start by asking our speakers to each give us some of their backgrounds and what led them to medicine, first of all, and then maybe what led them to innovation. So, ladies first.
I don't know. Thanks very much, and I want to also thank Nicole and Brett and their colleagues for inviting me. I'm really excited to see how many young people are interested in entrepreneurship and medicine and science. I'm a cardiologist, and first and foremost, I trained as a clinical cardiologist. I think I was always drawn to cardiology because I witnessed my dad having a heart attack in our driveway when I was 7 years old. So that really influenced the rest of my life. I went on to, after high school, I went to MIT, got my bachelor's degrees in chemistry and biology. I knew I was a pre-med from day one. And then I entered Harvard Med School in the Health Sciences Technology program and did my MD through that program. I was involved with research as an undergraduate at MIT because I knew that I wanted to do something innovative in cardiovascular disease. I didn't know what that something was, but I just wanted to know that I wanted to impact actual medical management and medical care. So I started out doing research in applied biophysics at MIT in laser angioplasty of coronary vessels. So that formed the basis for my thesis, both as an undergrad and as a medical student. And I later became interested in molecular biology because when I was a cardiology fellow under the guidance of Dr. Judy Swain at UPenn, who also then became chair of medicine at Stanford, I realized that molecular biology is really the horizon for major innovation. And therefore, I went back to school, enrolled in classes in the developmental biology PhD program at UPenn while I was simultaneously doing my cardiology fellowship. And then I was able to get a grant from the American Heart Association for 5 years, the Clinician Scientist Award. Judy left the East Coast to be chair at Stanford, and then I came to New York, where I spent the next 10 years at Columbia, and that's where I sort of developed my research in cell cycle biology and cardiac regeneration. So that's what led to the formation of my company, which I started while I was an assistant professor at Columbia University.
Excellent, thanks. Dr. Marin.
That's way too intimidating. Listen to that. I got to go next. Why can't he go next?
Okay. Well, I can tell you, so the only thing I know about jeans is that I wear Lucky Brand. It's really, I mean, honest, I don't know anything about this stuff, so I'm going to be embarrassed.
I'm a total disappointment.
Oh.
I'm a surgeon. I cut and paste for a living. I'm the chairman of the Department of Surgery, so I help other people do that. And I'm interested in technology development. I've founded a few companies in my day, mostly because I'm interested in money.
And that's why we're here in the academic session, to focus on the... No, but we'll get to talking to Dr. Marin about some of his stuff, including first aortic stent grafts, percutaneous. Dr. Patel.
So I went to college and undergrad and med school at the University of Miami, and then during my time there, I spent some time with my aunt, who's a radiologist, and sort of met some interventional radiologists, and I thought it was the coolest thing, because basically, at least the way I looked at interventional radiology at the time, and still do, is that we get a lot of patients that come to us that don't have other options. So I like to say we get to make it up as we go along. So I'd like to say I have a good week when I've done something no one's ever done before. So that's sort of how I fell into interventional radiology. And I still think we are sort of that way. We are one giant disruptive technology. We take other people's ideas, not necessarily ideas, but procedures, surgeries, and try to make them ours by doing them either non-invasively or minimally invasively. In terms of device development and things like that, I don't really do drugs.
That's good.
That's good. A whole bunch of different ways of looking at that. But in terms of device development, a lot of the stuff we do in interventional radiology is we sort of take what's there and, in essence, jerry-rig it to make it work for our patients or for the problem that they have at the time. You do it a couple times and you figure out you probably can make something that does this thing that you do, and make it a single piece or single device.
It's odd. I do, at any point in my career, I've done everything but the heart, but most of the device development stuff I've done has been all cardiac related, so go figure. But a lot of how I came into doing this stuff is not necessarily personal experiences as Dr. Chaudry, but more so the people I've met along the way, people I've trained with and worked with, and sort of got me to look at the world a little bit differently, and I think that's kind of how I came to this place.
Excellent.
Yeah.
2 seconds on me. I'm an engineer turned cardiologist turned engineer, or turned startup guy. I was started off as an undergraduate BME, got a master's in engineering, ended up at Mount Sinai Medical School. Anybody know where that is? In the time when the Annenberg, the doors where the Starbucks were, was the outside. So you remember that, yeah. In any case, I then went out, was at Hopkins, went to Columbia, ran the mechanical cardiac assist program at Columbia for a while, then went out into startups, have done a number of startups, and really enjoy sort of this process of linking clinical medicine with innovation. And so obviously you guys are either interested in it or wondering why anybody is silly enough to do it, and that's why we're here today, is to talk a little bit about it. So I guess the first question I'd like to ask is, is there a difference from your point of view in terms of clinical medicine, innovation in clinical medicine, and entrepreneurship from more the business side? Or do you see it as sort of a continuum from clinical innovation to entrepreneurship?
Well, I think it's a leading question, and the answer is it's a continuum. Entrepreneurship, which is typically or historically been a negative thing in medicine. If you said you were an entrepreneur or interested in entrepreneurial pursuits as a medical student 10, 15, 20 years ago, you would have been ostracized or asked to leave the class. That was probably a misunderstanding of the importance of entrepreneurship in terms of being able to develop things that make the next generation medicine, that help us take care of patients even better than we do today. And this is why this is a spectrum. Coming up with creative ideas that are driven by an entrepreneurial spirit creates better medicine, better patient care, better outcomes, and saves lives. So it's truly a continuum in the spectrum of advanced and improved healthcare.
I completely agree. I couldn't agree more. I think entrepreneurship is a driver of innovation, and I think it's really a continuum, because when you're taking care of patients, then that's when you have ideas as to how you could impact their care. And the bottom line is, you're not going to impact their care. You're not going to be able to take a discovery from the bench to the bedside without going through a commercialization route. And it's actually good for the patients too, because there are so many bells and whistles along the way, so many regulatory hurdles you have to pass through. I mean, I'm dealing with FDA regulations and everything, and so everything is checked at, and the minutest details are looked into. So it's actually good for the patients in the end. So I think it's really one long continuum.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, not to say that it hasn't been done, but I think it's really hard, at least from our world, to come up with devices if you don't know where you're starting from in terms of what procedures, how procedures are done, and then how you want to change it. If you don't know how they're done already, you can't really figure out how to change them to make them better.
So, the interesting thing is we have a very mixed group here, and Sinai's done something unique in the sense that it is trying to do what I guess we never had the opportunity to get experience to. Maybe at HST you did, but never really had the ability to get experience to. You learned in medical school clinical medicine. If you were going to do research, you learned research, but nobody learned how to go through the problems and issues that Chaudry's dealing right now, developing something towards the FDA or to get through the FDA, or developing something, that's his investment advisor. So, or to go through, the paths that you need to test early things on the bench, like if Dr. Mattel is, iterating there, where is the line between, taking clinical stuff and using it off-label in a different way to achieve a goal versus becoming unregulated procedure. So I guess one thing was what do you think you would have liked to have in medical school or in your specialty training that would have prepared you for some of the stuff that you ended up doing later, more on the innovative entrepreneurial commercial side?
Well, I think this program is fantastic. I'm really happy to see students taking the initiative and putting these programs together, because I never knew I was going to be an entrepreneur until I actually formed the company in 2006. And it was because my younger brother nudged me. Columbia was interested in patenting everything I was doing because it seemed to really work, as opposed to the clinical stem cell field for the heart hasn't worked thus far, and we're actually regenerating and creating new myocytes in the heart. And now we've taken it into human cells in a petri dish. We're making them divide. So it was a completely different approach to this question of cardiac regeneration. So Columbia was very interested in patenting everything I was doing. And my younger brother knew he was going to be an entrepreneur. He's also a physician. He trained at Mount Sinai. He was on adjunct faculty at Mount Sinai. And now he started a few years ago Xenon Health, which is a healthcare management company. Totally different type of business. But he said to me, you better make money off your discoveries, because if you don't, somebody else will. So he basically kicked me at that time, and I started thinking about it, and I thought, well, it's also you need to do this in order to get these bench discoveries to patients. They have to go through this process. And I realized pharma companies have shrunk in terms of their R&D budgets, so they're depending on buying up small biotechs is where the innovation is happening. And I think to have programs like this, which make students aware of all the different processes you go through and all the different angles you look at this question, is really exciting and key to helping you think about these things as you're going through your clinical training and addressing questions that really need solutions.
Sorry, I think you make a good point. I think what I would have liked to have known, at least in med school, isn't, as you said, your brother said, you better make money off your discoveries. The one thing they don't teach you in med school is actually how to make money. And Dr. Mary probably attests to that too. But in terms of even just, you have an idea, how do you actually take the step from, okay, I have an idea, this is what I want to do. Like, how far do you need to go before it's a patent? How far do you need to take it before you can actually make money or progress? Like, do you actually have to build a device, or can you just come up with an idea and take it from there? And they don't really teach you that in med school. So,
But that's a very good segue into a question I have for Dr. Marin. Dr. Marin developed early AAA grafts, and he did it basically based on, as far as I could tell, your clinical intuition need, but also having the interest in actually physically putting things together and utilizing them. My question is, what made you decide to be innovative but stay in medicine versus go out with a company that you actually were responsible for founding?
So I guess the real question is, can you not be innovative and be in medicine? Do you need to leave medicine and go into a company to be innovative? And I think that those things are probably not true. You can be innovative doing anything that you choose. It's more about the passion that you put into it and apply to it to get to success and to see your dream or your idea successful. It doesn't matter whether you're doing it with a company or you're doing it in your research lab with a group of 10 or 12 researchers studying a particular area. That's entrepreneurship. It's passion mixed with drive and the ability to say that you're going to chew through cement to get to the end and to get the answer done. And whether that's end to launching a public company or whether it's to get another NIH grant and become the most funded lab in the hospital, is very similar goals and very similar traits. And I don't see them being different. As it relates to me, I saw a clinical need. That clinical need led to an idea, just like it would if I was in a laboratory studying cell biology. I saw a need, I saw a solution, I developed a solution, I tested the solution just like a laboratory would, and the outcome of that was to pursue a mechanism to get the product produced and get it used for patients. And whether that's internally in a hospital, in a medical center, or in a private company, is more about the opportunities presented to you as you go with your passion and your idea to pursue an answer.
And I think that that brings up a very, very important point that cannot be overstressed. Nobody can do everything. And it's not that you're not smart enough or don't have the ability to or whatever. It's hard to do everything across the board well. And one of the things that I think you have to decide is, where is my core competence and what do I truly personally enjoy doing? Hopefully they overlap. Or if not, you try and make your core competence what you truly enjoy doing, because that's where the most success will be. The question that I think you should try and take advantage of starting today, or previously if you've done it, or certainly all the opportunities that are available at Sinai, is to try and figure out where in this spectrum do I fit. Do I fit as a clinician who innovates in a lab and does wonderful stuff that then I believe can be commercialized, and understand the issues with the commercialization so I can talk, I can communicate properly with the people to make sure what I've done and is really going to help people gets properly distributed? Do I want to learn a different skill set and actually go out with the company? Do I want to, work sort of in the in-between stage? And there are many different opportunities for physicians and scientists other than, the sort of, I have to be in a lab, I have to be in a company, that you can look at. The question is, you have to go look. And the only way for you to go know there's stuff to look for is to talk to people who have been through different things and get their input. So I think here on the panel, we have examples of the spectrum. And Dr. Chaudry, why, you're a president and founder of your company. What made you decide to focus effort on being part of a company rather than staying purely in academics?
Well, it's. I think it was not something that was an overnight decision. Like I said, I started thinking about it in 2006, and then formed this little sort of on paper virtual company, so to speak. It got funded in 2008, and then there was a few delays when I moved over here and shifted my lab to Mount Sinai after that. And then when we got off the ground, then, when we finally published large animal data, it attracted the attention of a lot of investors. I mean, I was getting phone calls from the major pharmaceutical companies. I wasn't even calling them, they were calling me when we had our large animal data published earlier this year. So I've been very lucky in that it's just been sort of an area which there was quite a need, and there was a new, different technology that was working, in our opinion, a lot better than stem cell transplantation in the heart has worked thus far. And I think it's a matter of, I'm still very much an academic, and I maintain a fully funded laboratory. And then you can't, like Dr. Levin said, you can't do everything well. I'm not a business person. So I recruited a very experienced CEO. He has 30 years of experience in biotech. He helped found companies like Genentech and Amgen. He was involved with the financing of those early companies. He helped finance one of the early funders of Accorda Therapeutics with Ron Cohen. So he has an extensive breadth of experience, and really the day-to-day financial and business management is done by the CEO. You have to delegate. You have to know what your strengths are, and you have to focus on those. My strength is turning out interesting science and leading a lab that works on interesting science. So you have to get people to help you and get people on your team that are going to do those types of things with you. You just can't do it all by yourself.
Now, one thing for the scientists and clinicians in the audience, when I stepped out of academia, I had this sort of feeling that, like, I was looked down upon, or you were the you were the bad guy, or whatever it was. I mean, I think today it's a lot different, but did you feel any reticence to be associated with a company or to be part of a company because you thought that your academic colleagues may think different of you?
The only problem is that you do have to give your company time, you do have to give your patients time, you have to give your lab time. You have to keep your lab funded. As long as your lab is funded, the hospital doesn't care. My clinical colleagues, I do 1 full day of echo. I take call for a week. I'm actually on call all of this week and this weekend, and so I take call for the hospital. And my colleagues have been really wonderful about schedule changes and things like that. So you have to be working with clinical colleagues who are understanding of the demands on your time, and I've been lucky in that regard. We've been lucky that our lab just got funded by NISTEM for the next 3 years. We, in fact, got the highest score in New York State on our NISTEM grant, which is for a totally different topic than what the company is working on. And so it's a matter of juggling everything. You just have to work really, really hard and have a passion for it. But like I said, I do now have a CEO who runs a day-to-day business, and I hope to stay in academia for as long as possible.
So Dr. Patel, you're an interventional radiologist, which my understanding of interventional radiology is rudimentary in the sense that as long as I have a needle that'll reach something, you'll get there. Is that correct?
We can do that, yeah.
Yes, all right, okay. But, part of using those needles or those other devices, and I know you work in oncology and those things, what was the process, your thought process by which you go through the innovation? What makes you actually try and find something new?
Well, a lot of times it's just that we take a look at something that's being done to our patients, whether we're doing it or someone else is doing it, and a lot of times you just think we can just do it better, whether that be faster, cheaper, or less invasive. And so that's a lot of times how we innovate. And sometimes as we're doing our procedures, we, like I said, we come up with sort of innovative ways of trying to fix it with the stuff we have on the shelf, and then we figure out a way to sort of put all those pieces together into a single piece to make it as a simpler solution, as opposed to having to build our own things every time.
So is innovation something that naturally, when you get into an IR residency, you're issued innovation card or something, or do you think only, how do you think, or do people with an innovative personality tend to go towards IR? What do you think is innovation? Is it learned, innate? How do you see it?
Right, so that's tough.
How do these people know they're innovative?
Yeah, it's like, how do you teach I don't think you can teach someone to be innovative, right? I mean, I think some of it you have to have to begin with, and some of it is just looking at the world, or looking at what you're looking at, just to look at it differently, and that's how a lot of the things started. Whether it be Dr. Marin's stent grafts, someone came up with the ideas like, well, why are we doing it open? Why don't we come up with this way of putting fabric on stents and put them in people that way to fix aneurysms? Although I think it was a bit more complicated than that, but
I sew it a little bit.
Yeah.
How hard could it be, right?
But yeah, but I mean, like I said, a lot of it I think has to do with, for me, it was a lot of people I dealt with coming here. Actually, one of the people that helped me a lot is actually one of Dr. Marin's cohorts, is a surgeon named Dr. Perotti, and he's a well-known vascular surgeon. And one of the ideas that we worked with him originally was actually to do flow reversal for carotid stents. And it started off as a simple thing they did relatively simpler thing they did in the OR. And he came up with this idea of trying to do this during carotid stents. And it made a lot of sense to take something that he was doing already and sort of, for lack of a better word, jerry-rig a system to make it work that you could do it percutaneously. And that's a lot of the things we do.
So we're not going to all learn to be innovators here today or learn all the secrets or tricks to every little piece of it. But what I've found over time is that my mentors were the most important piece of this. And being able to go and talk to people who have experience in the area or who've been through it, and as the previous speaker said, screwed up enough. You went from suck to non-suck was the slide he used. And it's really true. You need to make some mistakes on your own, but it's always nice to make as few classic mistakes and make most of them being new mistakes. And Dr. Marin, you mentor a lot of people, whether it be as a surgeon teaching residents or fellows or innovators trying to do entrepreneurship. How would you suggest that the people in the audience go about identifying a mentor?
That's sort of like going about identifying a parent. If you could get rid of your existing parents and get new ones, what would they look like? Would they smoke pot? You know, what type of people would they be? I think you have to find someone. Pot is marijuana for those.
That's
You have to
an
find-
ageist statement there, just so you know. Right.
You have to find people who have personalities that mesh with yours and have philosophies of development that mesh with yours. And I guess the thing that jumps out at me when we think about innovation and finding mentors is to look at people, how they look at problems. Some people look at a device and then look for an application. How can I make this device work? And other people look at a problem and say, how can I make a device? And if you think for a moment about that concept, you realize they're very different things. Different parts of your brain, different parts of your creativity are mandated to make those two equations fit. And I would say in a simplistic way, because I'm a surgeon and we reduce things to simplistic things, find a mentor that fits your style. Are you a person who comes up with an idea and looks around for something to apply it to, or do you get into trouble, see a problem, and say, how can I build something around that? And that will drive you to two different types of people who could be different types of mentors.
And, you know, Dr. Patel, do you prefer to work alone? Do you prefer to work in groups? And if you do like to work in groups or collaboratively, how do you find those people? And how do you tell them when they're not productive to get lost and move on to the next one?
So a lot of the stuff I've done with people. I've been lucky though. I haven't really had told anyone to move on to go somewhere else.
Oh, I could tell you how to do that.
But I think, at least in our world, a lot of what we're taking is, like I said, other people's procedures. So it's really hard to do it. I think it's kind of difficult to do purely on your own. Also, a lot of the things that we use, someone will bring us a device and they'll say, okay, we want you to use this device for X, but by the end of the week, we're using it for a whole bunch of other different things, and we sort of innovate that way as well. So I think I use my colleagues all the time to, like, I have this idea, what do you think you can use this for? And they come up with 5 or 6 different answers of trying to use it.
So Dr. Chaudry, you run a lab, and you have, I'm sure, a number of students, postdocs, et cetera. How do you interact with them to, do they ever ask you questions like, gosh, how'd you start a company? Or, what is it really like to try and bring an idea from bench to bedside? Is there a lot of that discussion in labs, do you think, in general, or do you think that it's more unique, the individual that?
Oh no. I mean, I've been very happy to have the most amazing collaborators. I have the most amazing postdocs. I think one thing I learned about when you hire postdocs, though, is to pick really, really smart ones. I mean, you really.
Okay. Well, the smart ones, raise your hand, please.
One is right here, actually.
Okay.
And so I think that's key. People who are really driven and as passionate and as dedicated as you are. At my current stage, I'm lucky to have those types, but you go through a learning curve early in my career. And human resources here will tell you there were a few people I had to ask to leave. Because they just weren't producing, and you just can't afford to do that. I was really lucky to have an amazing mentor at Columbia. She had not previously been an entrepreneur, but she was really keen on the idea of my launching a startup. She's on my scientific advisory board. Judy Swain, who mentored me as a cardiology fellow, is on my scientific advisory board, and she's been very entrepreneurial. Her sister, Julie Swain, is here at Mount Sinai and has worked with the FDA. Dr. Marin probably knows her very well. But both sisters have been very entrepreneurial, and so Judy actually helped me start the company way back when. And so I think it's been a continuum where I've benefited from having the right mentors and continue to work with those mentors in my company. And I will be involving my postdocs when they're finishing their postdocs. Hopefully they'll be joining the company as well. So I like to retain the bright people and keep working with them for as long as I possibly can.
I want to contradict a statement there. I would go with the dumb ones. Dumb people who have an incredible motivation and drive and passion over intelligence any day.
Okay, which actually brings me to a very interesting point. I'm going to take questions, right. So we're going to take questions, and the last thing I want to say is, so when I was at Hopkins, we used to sit at the lunch table in the doctor's dining room, when there was a doctor's dining room, and it was based on the chief of surgery's comments at the time to his chief surgeons, to his chief residents, and he was given two choices. One was, are you stupid or you just don't care? So, you know, the question is whether you're smart and trainable or stupid but really work hard. You know, it doesn't really matter. You know, all joking aside, I think what you heard here is that passion, drive, being able to see things that other people don't see is what defines people who can innovate and how to innovate. And with that, let's take some questions from the audience.
There's some microphones.
Go ahead.
On both sides.
Or yell really loud.
Hi, my name is Gulva Faruqi. I'm pediatric cardiology trained, and then I did a year in imaging here at Sinai. And then this year I got a grant to do research in 3D printing and modeling of congenital heart disease. So my question is, so now I'm at a place where I'm looking at next year, you know, going actually into the workplace and growing up and figuring out what to do. So can you talk a little bit about early on what decisions to make in terms of what to negotiate for, in terms of protected time? Is it where you can take 100% clinical position and still, you know, do something innovative on your own time because you have an idea? Or is it really important to only go into a position where you have at least, you know, 30 or more % protected time for research in order to be really productive?
You can't do it without protective time. I mean, it's just impossible. You cannot be in a 100% clinical position and have any energy left at the end. You can ask my lab the day I do echo, I come back brain dead. And they know I'm good for nothing that day. So you absolutely have to have protected time. And it really helps to have protective time if you can try to get one of these sort of fellow to faculty kind of transition grants, and then you're going into an institution with money, and that guarantees you protected time.
I think protected time is also a sharp or perhaps a dull sword. You know, you have to decide for yourself what you want in your professional practice. If you have protected time and you're doing research, you have a different type of practice as a physician than you do in a situation where you're doing investigation that's less protected and you're more clinically active. You can't turn to a mother who you've been taking care of their child with a congenital heart problem, that you've been taking care of them on Monday and Tuesday, and then something happens on Wednesday, they call your office and they say, oh, she's on protected time. It's just not going to work. You won't be comfortable. Your patients won't be comfortable, nor will the referral docs. So in some respect, if you track into our investigative world like that, you're also tracking yourself into a certain type of practice as a physician, which you have to be comfortable with as well.
What do you think about protected time? You're IR.
So I have to agree with Dr. Marin. I mean, part of the thing is I actually really love doing IR, so I can't really see my day and day without actually doing interventional radiology. So I don't think I'd actually want someone to be like, okay, today you're not supposed to do procedures. And again, we're really busy. I don't see how I could potentially do that. I think I agree. It's hard to do, to truly take an idea through its fruition if you don't have, at some point, end up with protected time. But at least in the beginning, I don't know how I'd do it.
Yeah, I'm in the middle where I say you have to do what's right for you. So you have to decide what are your career goals and whether you want to be primarily a clinician or a clinician that does innovation but directly on clinical matters, or on the basic science side or basic science side doing innovation. Each one of those requires a different deal because you have to decide, you know, where you're going to get the most bang for the buck for your future career.
Okay, thank you.
Ladies first, sorry.
So coming from an aspiring surgeon who also has kind of a knack or a like for business, to what point do you value having an early on business education, even maybe before pre-med days, in being kind of the
I mean, there's no harm in education. The more education you get, the more learning you get, the more wise you are, and the more capable you are of making a decision. That being said, it's not an absolute. Having an MBA is not required for you to become entrepreneurial and to develop a company and to be successful. Likewise, if you have one, it doesn't guarantee you'll be successful either. So it's a little bit about how deep you want to go down the rabbit hole and be knowledgeable about the field, and how much of the tasks you want to take on. We heard right here that she runs several companies, but she has no interest in being the CEO. And being the CEO or running the day-to-day operations of a company takes a different set of skills, and you spend your time differently. You're meeting with people to talk about raising money, or about management issues, or about hiring and firing people on your management side. You know, those are jobs that are exciting to some people, but may not be exciting to you. So you have to choose your path, get the education that guides you towards that, and use some innate sort of general skills that you learn as a growing person to guide what you do.
We're really short on time because this goes right into the next thing, and I'm going to be yelled at if we don't. We'll take one more question really quick, but then please feel free if you have questions. You know, we'll be outside or inside or here, you know, for a while. Please do not hesitate to ask anything you want. So one more question. Did you want to?
Yeah, I'm a prospective graduate student. I work currently on the business side of things, and I have this interest in big idea of creating more transparency in the mental health sector. I found these great guys at Mount Sinai who are doing kind of traditional neuroimaging research, focusing on analysis to go from bed to bedside. So that's all well and good, but I'm wondering, is there a curriculum within Mount Sinai that makes Mount Sinai special, that really focuses on what we've been talking about today, or would it be even more, is it just about the mentorship?
I mean, I'll give a bit of a plug. Jeff, do you want me to give a bit of a plug? Or so, you know, there have been things. I've been here at Mount Sinai for 3.5 years, and I've benefited from some new initiatives and some new courses that have just been amazing. So I took the inaugural QED course from the Center for Technology, Innovation, and Entrepreneurship, and that really jump-started my venture. And Susanna here took the next course and did that as well. There are also more strict actual plans, actual curriculum within the Mount Sinai Institute of Technology that are beginning now. So there are lots of people to talk to who are around this afternoon that you can talk to about that. But I do have to say that Mount Sinai is really leading the way when it comes to academic programs to foster innovation and entrepreneurship. So we're benefiting from that as we speak.
So please join
And
me.
Mr. Jeff Smith, raise your hand over there. Is the only one in the audience who has less hair than I do. Remember that face. He can guide you in this direction.
And so that's a great segue because Jeff Smith and Daniel Seltzer will be staying here in this room to lead our workshop entitled Transforming Ideas into Technology. And then we're going to have How to Pitch Yourself and Your Idea next door in Seminar Room A. And I'll be hosting the Funding Beyond the NIH box, alternate funding for your commercialization ideas and academic ideas here at Mount Sinai. So we've got a really quick turnover, and we'll see you at the next one.
Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.